Welcome, I'm Cosette, here to lead you through another mobility flow. Today's sequence will be focusing especially on hip extension. If you're unaware of what hip extension really is, it is basically when we're opening the front of the hip. Okay, so it's the opposite of flexion, which is bringing your thigh bone forward, closing the angle between your thigh and hip. Extension is really moving your ability to move your thigh down and behind you. And this is necessary for walking, for getting places. We need hip extension and flexion to have better balance around the pelvis. We're also going to lead up to Camel Pose, a back bend. So as always with practice, really try to learn how to assess where you are, so you know what you're working with on the mat. Start there, and then just stay open. Be willing to explore and adjust things as they come. Breaks are welcome anytime. A prop is useful to have, such as a yoga block, just in case you need to raise the ground. Okay, so we're going to start today on the back. So reclining into a half shavasana, knees bent, feet firmly planted, pointing feet forward. You could have the knees apart or bring them together so they hold each other up. You place one hand over your lower belly and the other hand over the heart or chest. For now, you can be easy. You are supported by the ground. You're sensing all the points of contact you have with your mat. You let those points anchor you more into this moment. Can you sense your breathing? Really try to keep the breath soft and rhythmic through the nose. Can you sense your breath moving beneath both of your hands? When we're not really thinking about it, we usually breathe in a more shallow manner up in the chest. Take the breath down into the abdomen. Your breathing might be your meditation, a tool to keep you present, calm and composed. 3 more cycles here. Open the eyes. Take a full body stretch. Waking up the muscles, the joints, reaching arms back, feet forward. You could arch the spine a little and circle the ankles, the wrists. And bend knees towards your chest. And give legs a light squeeze. And then begin to rock a little forward and back. Stirring the knees around. And use hands to guide them in circles. The ground massages your back. Now interlace fingers over the right shin and extend left leg forward on the mat for a wind removing pose. Hands guide right knee towards you. So you can get an idea of the difference between hip flexion and extension. Here you are flexing the right hip. I'm doing it more passively using hands to pull that right thigh towards you, closing the angle between the thigh, okay, and front hip. Okay, and left hip is more an extension. Okay, release your right leg forward, and then bend your left knee. Interlace fingers over the left shin. Okay, and just lightly pulling the knee towards you. So here you think about which hip is in flexion, which one is in extension. Another breath. Okay, release your left leg forward, okay, for a moment. And we'll work more on extending hips now for bridge pose. Rebending both knees, step your feet on the mat. Feet are at least hip width apart, parallel to each other, toes in front of heels. Arms straight down by your sides, palms face down. Pressing through the feet, raise the pelvis. Okay, so you have to use your hamstrings, the back of the thighs, to lift your hips. Pretend you're squeezing a block between your knees, okay, so they're still pointing forward. Okay, gently squeeze glute muscles, outer hips, for added stability. Slowly lower the spine and pelvis down. Your breath is continuous through the nose. Again, rooting through the feet, raise the pelvis, bringing hips more into extension. Okay, another breath here. You could pretend you're squeezing that block again. In slow motion, lower the spine and hips down. Okay, give yourself a pause. And you take the feet a little wider than the hips. You could reach arms away from you. And do some windshield wiper legs next. Knees go to each side, back and forth. Okay, the hips will naturally move with the legs. Okay, the pelvis can swivel, and your head could turn in the opposite direction of the knees. Okay, knees towards your chest. Okay, wrap your arms around your legs. If you can, hold opposite wrists, maybe elbows. Okay, lengthening lower back towards the mat. And placing hands behind your thighs. Rock forward and back. Okay, do this a couple times. And just meet in a tabletop position, okay, or all fours. Okay, so hips over knees, shoulders over wrists. Okay, fingers spread wide. Okay, with breath, you could inhale to cow, lifting the tailbone, lower the belly. On your exhale, around the back. Again, inhale to cow. As you exhale, round the spine, flex it into cat. Okay, let your breath move you. Okay, continuing on your own for a few more rounds of cow and cat. Pay attention to how the spine is moving, what really moves it. Okay, the pelvis tells the spine where to go. Okay, another round. Okay, just take your time. We'll meet in a more neutral back. Okay, just gazing ahead of fingertips. Okay, now to prepare the wrist for more weight bearing and for moving in different angles, rock forward and back. Okay, moving the torso, keeping the arms straight. See if you could lean your chest a little farther past the wrists. Okay, and then the next time you lean forward, just stay there. So moving the chest as far ahead of the wrists as you can. Okay, so you're extending wrists. Okay, think of pulling your fingertips back towards your forearms. Keep pulling fingertips back. Try not to change the angle here between your hand and arm. And start to rock your hips back, pulling fingertips back towards your arms still. Okay, strengthening top of the arm. Okay, again, you're gonna plant the palms, lean forward, Energetically pulling fingertips back towards your arms. Keep pulling them back. Extending wrists, leaning back. Okay, one more time. Palms flat, chest ahead of wrists. Pulling fingertips towards your forearms. Rock back, pull fingertips back. Yes. Then return to tabletop, restacking the joints. Okay, here you could give hands a little shake. Okay. And now to strengthen under the wrist and forearm. Keep the four front base knuckles from your index fingers to pinkies rooted up to the mat. Okay, and raise the heel of the palm. Okay, your thumb will come up too. Okay, in slow motion, can you lower the heel of the palm down? So think of your forearm as your calf. Again, raising the heel of the palm. Then heel of the palm lowers with control. Okay, one more time, heel of the palm rises. You might feel a little shaking, some burning, strength builds. Heel of the palm lowers. And again, give hands a light shake. All right, returning to your tabletop. Okay, push hands through the mat, look ahead of fingertips. Okay, try to spin elbows back and the eye of the elbow forward. Tucking toes under. Hover your knees 2 inches off the ground. Okay, here in bear pose, we're engaging our center, shoulder blades broaden apart. Lower the knees gently. Okay, again, knees float, an inch or 2 off the mat. Stable through the rest of the body, pushing into the mat. Knees down. Once more, knees hover. Breathing here. Begin to raise the hips higher and walk your hands back to your feet. Coming into a forward fold. So feet are planted, keep them about hip width apart. You could soften your knees and then take a halfway lift. Pressing palms against the shins as an option. Okay, keeping the chest reaching forward beyond your toes and shoulders back away from ears. Fold, hands to the mat. Take another halfway lift. Long spine. Low belly tone, just draw the navel up and in. For ragdoll, you can fold again. Okay, keeping arms down, maybe holding opposite elbows, your preference. Okay, maintain strength in your lower half, keeping weight in the front of the feet. Okay, then you have a little more freedom in the upper body. Okay, let it hang more passively. Explore a light sway side to side with the torso, or stay still. Your head could relax, just looking between the ankles or shins. Take another breath. Okay, if you're holding elbows, hands go to the mat. Half lift. Long spine, chest forward. Now walk your hands forward to high plank. Okay, stacking shoulders over wrists like tabletop. Straight arms, look ahead of fingertips. Okay, unlike tabletop, legs are straight, firm your thighs. Activate the muscles so they lift you. Okay, and if you need less load or weight in this pose, you could do a supported plank with knees down behind hips. Okay, keep pushing the ground away from you. Okay, and then here keep looking forward and lean your chest forward. Lower yourself all the way down to your stomach. Untuck the toes. Okay, from here we're just going to stack hands or fists in front of you, resting your head down. Okay, so working on some hip extension. We're basically going to use the back of the leg, the thigh to move the leg behind us. So keeping the front of your hips on the mat, raise the right leg from the thigh to the toes. Okay, your head could stay down. I'm lifting mine so you can hear me. Okay, from here, just keep reaching right toes back like you're making the leg longer than the left. Front of your hips are level. Lower the right leg down. Okay, now left leg lifts. Okay, don't focus too much on height. Reach left toes back, keep the leg long. Okay, sensing the hamstring working here. Then release. Okay, for more hip extension, bend your right knee. You could flex or point the foot. Still keeping the front of your hips glued to the mat, pretend you're squeezing a tennis ball between your right calf and thigh. While you squeeze that ball, can you lift your knee off the ground? To see how much hip extension you have if you're moving that right thigh up behind you. Okay, lower the knee, keep squeezing the tennis ball, keep breathing. And lift your right knee off the mat. Okay, it might just be a couple of centimeters. Nothing big. Lower the knee down. Still squeezing the ball. One more time, lift your right knee. Okay, you're lengthening the front of the hip. Okay, release. Right knee down, right foot back. And enjoy a moment here. Other side. Left knee bends, flexing or pointing the foot. Squeeze that tennis ball between your calf and thigh. Okay, then you're going to raise your left knee off the mat. Focus on the feeling, not how high you can get the leg, not how it looks. Lower the knee down. And again, raising your left knee, squeezing the tennis ball, extending the hip. Lower the knee down with control. One more time, squeezing that tennis ball. Can you raise your thigh off the mat? Then release. Left foot back, take a pause. And you might have experienced a little cramp in your hamstrings. That's normal if your muscle is not used to the action. Okay, with time and practice, it adapts. Bend both knees. Take your feet side to side gently like windshield wipers. Here your hips can move naturally with the legs. Okay, and then send your feet back, straight legs behind you. Place hands outside the ribs, okay, hands under the elbows. And just taking a low cobra, tops of the feet heavy, hands are light, chest lifts. Engaging your back. For child's pose, push hips back towards the heels. The head is resting. You could stay active here by reaching hands and hips away from each other. Okay, tabletop next. Okay, fingers spread apart. Keep the base knuckles of the fingers rooted, okay, so we don't put all the pressure in the heel of the palm. Tuck the toes under, downward facing dog. You're raising the hips, try to send them up and back away from hands, which are pushing down and forward in opposition. Legs do not need to be straight. Okay, you might experiment with bending the knees more, feel how that affects the upper body. You notice if your shoulder blades, the scapula, are kind of sinking in towards each other or towards the spine. If they are, you try to wrap outer armpits down and forward to move the shoulder blades apart. If you need to widen or lengthen your foundation, feel free to move the hands and or feet. Front ribs hug in. Just be here with the pose. Arrive. Another breath. On your next breath, come up high on the toes. Bend your knees a lot and take a few steps to the front of your mat. Feet between hands, either together or hip width apart. Half lift. You did this earlier, chest forward. fold, hands to the mat. Now come up to standing, pushing through your legs, arms to the sky, hands at heart. Arms at your sides. Finally standing for mountain pose. You stand with more intention, more purpose, more energy, making footprints deeper. Energy rebounds up, you're growing a bit taller. Another breath here. On your next cycle, reach the arms up. Folding forward, hinge at your hips, bending knees on your way down. Half lift, long back. Plank pose, high plank, planting hands, step your feet back. On toes or knees, we're gonna look and lean forward. In slow motion, lower yourself all the way down as one piece. Untuck the toes, taking a low cobra. We did this earlier too. Your chest lifts, breathing in cobra, a small back bend. If hands are not already under the elbows, slide them back. Stay here, or for a more of a back bend, press down the hands, come up to high cobra or upward facing dog. Hips are extending, hands push down, thighs could float. Downward facing dog, tuck toes, raise hips. You're riding your wave of breath. Take your time, and if you ever notice that your breath is getting really short or shallow, give yourself a pause to reset. On your next cycle, rise up on the toes. Bend your knees, stepping or walking forward, as many steps as you need. Halfway lift. Fold. And come up to standing, pushing down the feet, arms overhead, hands close at heart. Another sun salutation, arms up. Folding forward, hinging at the hips, flexing the hips, half lift. High plank, your version, on toes or knees. Keep the core intact, look and lean forward. Option to lower halfway or all the way. Do your best to bend elbows back. Upward facing dog or cobra to downward facing dog. Okay, take another full breath in. A slow breath out. You feel how the breath enhances the pose. Okay, coming up high on the toes, bend your knees. Step or walk forward. Halfway lift. Okay, folding, knees could stay bent. Rise to stand, rooting the legs. Arms circle up to the sky. Then hands are at your heart. Okay, arms at your sides. Okay, for a little side body stretch, you can still face forward. I'm just gonna mirror you. Take your right arm up. Right arm is up, palm facing in. Grow taller, long waist, lift your upper body and bend to the left. Okay, hips could lean a touch to the right. Continuously pushing through feet. You make sure you're in control in the stretch. You're not just falling to the left. Your right waist can pull you back to center. Right arm down, left arm up. Okay, grow taller and with control, bending, easing more to the right. Okay, there's no rush anywhere, just move in increments. Okay, so you know what you can sustain, if you need more or less. Okay, can you sense your breath? Breathe into all this space through your left side. Left waist pulls you to center and bring the arm down. Okay, so still facing forward. Now trying chair pose. Bend your knees, hips back, arms up. If you can, frame your ears with your arms and keep the arms straighter, reaching with purpose. Like downward dog, you have this line from hips to fingertips. Do your best to knit the front ribs in. Maybe your chair gets shorter. Okay, you're just going to shift more weight to your right foot. Lifting left heel, maybe lift the whole left foot. Just hover it off the mat to balance on one leg for a few moments. Okay, see if you could pull your left knee a little higher, flexing your left hip. Okay, return your left foot to the mat. And weight to left foot now. Pick up right heel, maybe the whole right foot hovers. Keep the depth of your chair, try to pull right knee higher. Right foot down, forward fold. Halfway lift. Hands or fingertips to your mat. Step the left foot back. Big step. Lower your left knee for a low lunge. Okay, make sure your feet are not on a tightrope. Okay, untuck left toes. Okay, push down the feet right away as you bring the chest and arms up. Okay, if you need hands lower, they could stay on the right thigh or even on the mat. Use your legs here. Okay, so right now we are extending the left hip. The front of your left hip is lengthening, it's stretching. We're going to use a little bit of strength, okay, to increase the stretch. So if you can locate your tailbone, okay, at the base of the spine. You want to think of sending your tailbone forward, kind of down and forward, and at the same time, drag your left knee back. So you're really using opposition to increase the stretch. So tailbone forward, left knee drags back. Okay, more subtle, you shouldn't see too much happening. Okay, stay strong here. Okay, and then reach higher, cactus the elbows. Okay, without changing the lower half, still engaging the same things. Tailbone forward, left knee pushes back. Then arms up, hands to your mat. Half split. Rock hips back, lengthening right leg to your own degree. You can move hands under shoulders. Right leg does not need to be straight. Okay, but the more you lengthen it, the more you lengthen through the hamstring. And chest forward. Okay, return to your low lunge, bending right knee, planting right foot. Tuck left toes under, lift your left knee. Okay, you can scoot left foot forward a touch. Okay, for crescent lunge, root your legs, arms overhead. Okay, working on some balance. Shift more weight into your right foot. Stork pose. You're going to draw your left knee up in front of you. Okay, left hip is flexing. Supporting leg strong. One more breath. Okay, left foot to the right foot on your mat. Hands to heart. Now pause, another breath here. Okay, circle the arms up. Fold forward. Halfway lift. Okay, hands, maybe fingertips to your mat. Right foot steps back. Bring right knee down gently for your low lunge. You can untuck right toes. Okay, then lift your chest, arms to the sky. Energy in all directions, down through the feet, up through fingertips. If we don't engage enough, we'll just be sinking and resting in the stretch, and this won't get your joints any stronger. Okay, so let's try to increase the stretch on the front of the right hip by locating the tailbone. Think of sending tailbone down and forward slightly as you energetically drag your right knee back. So tailbone forward, right knee back. And you can take some time for that to really make sense. Be patient. Okay, keep those opposing energies, forces, and cactus the arms. You can do a small back bend here. Okay, arms up, hands to the mat, hips back for half split. Lengthening left leg, maybe it's straight, it's not required. Hands could be under shoulders for support. Okay, take the chest forward more than down. Another breath. Returning to low lunge, left knee bends. Tuck right toes under, lift right knee. If you need to shorten your stride, scoot right foot forward. Crescent lunge is next. Okay, arms can be up. Okay, working on balance. Weight to left foot. Stork pose. Drive left foot down, draw right knee up. Okay, let it kind of shift and wobble. It's part of learning to balance, learning to adapt. Okay, another breath here in stork. And then just lower right foot to the mat, hands to heart center. Okay, arms by your sides. Okay, smooth breathing through the nose. Okay, using just enough effort to stay tall, okay, to keep the curves of your spine, not too upright, not slouching either. Okay, one more breath. Okay, so continuing our focus on hip flexion and balancing on one foot. We're just gonna bring weight to the right foot. Okay, lift your left knee, okay, like stork. And then hands in front of the left knee or under the thigh, whatever you can reach better. Okay, keep the chest tall. Okay, try to pull your knee higher towards you. So passively flexing the left hip. Okay, it's like a standing wind removing pose. Okay, can you keep your left knee where it is? Okay, and just take hands to hips. All right, keep pulling left knee up, using more strength now. Okay, now just make your left thigh hip height. We're gonna do something like a warrior 3, but with your back leg bending. Maintain the 90-degree angle at your left knee and start to hinge forward. Okay, think of raising your left thigh behind you, torso forward. Hands could stay on hips, maybe arms reach back. Okay, so sole of the left foot towards the ceiling. Try to step on the ceiling. One more breath here. Extend left leg back now and go to crescent lunge. We were here before. See where you land. Don't feel stuck. Adjust. Arms overhead. Good. And we'll try a side stretch. So you're just going to flip your right palm up, holding the left wrist, upper body to the right. Allow your left shoulder to shrug up with the arm, move things together. Okay. And from here, letting go of your wrist, come back to center with control. And open up to warrior 2. Left heel spins down. Right knee and foot still face forward. Okay, arms reaching wide equally. Try to squeeze outer hips, left glutes. Okay, pulling right knee back. Your pelvis could turn a little towards the right thigh if needed. Okay, just flip your right palm, reverse your warrior. Maintain the bend in your right leg. Okay, let's take a left arm across the front of the belly here to the right waist. Using left hand for feedback to breathe into, okay, to sense the space in your side. Warrior two. A windmill, hands to the mat, framing your right foot with your hands. Spin your left heel up. Okay, go to a three-legged dog with right leg kicking back, right leg back and up. Hands push forward. Then step right foot outside, right hand. Getting ready for lizard lunge. Okay, you could always put your right foot between the hands first, then move it over to the edge of the mat. Left knee is down, untucking left toes. If the lunge feels too long, slide your left knee forward. Okay, extending left hip here. Okay, handstand your shoulders. Okay, just stay active pushing into the mat, pushing through whatever touches the mat. Okay, to add more of a stretch on the front of your left hip, you're gonna bend your left knee. Okay, if the knee allows, you could always skip this. So the hamstring, the back of your left thigh, bends the knee. Just bend as much as you can. Okay, now can you reach your right arm forward, up to the ceiling, and then just reach right hand back past your left foot. So you're reaching back with right hand as you also try to pull left heel towards you with strength. Okay, we're gonna release left foot, right hand down, untwist. Tuck your left toes under, lifting left knee, high plank. Downward facing dog. And keep the front ribs up and in. Encourage some weight to the legs. Then rising up on the toes. Bend your knees, step or walk to the top of your mat. Halfway lift. Fold forward. Come up to standing, grounding feet, rise with control. Hands at your heart. Okay, arms at your sides. Okay, let's check out the whole other side. Okay, focus on one thing at a time, no race to get anywhere. Weight to your left foot. Okay, we're gonna raise the right thigh this time. Okay, balancing on left foot, right thigh is up. You're flexing right hip. Now interlace fingers in front of the right knee or under the thigh. You're using hands and biceps to just guide the knee higher up and flex the hip more deeply. Okay, can you keep your right knee where it is, lifted, squeezing front right hip, and bring hands to hips. Okay, and just bring right thigh to hip height now. Okay, now from this hip flexion, we're going to go into extension, into a bent back leg warrior three, long name. All right, so you're going to hinge here at the left hip, torso forward, okay, keeping the 90-degree angle at your right knee, so the sole of your right foot faces the ceiling. Think of stepping on the ceiling and try to lift your right thigh behind you. Powerful here through the hamstring. Arms could be back like wings. One more breath here. And can you extend right leg back and gracefully step into crescent. Okay, how softly can you land? Arms are up. Okay, without changing your lower half, for the side stretch, flip left palm up, hold the right wrist. Guide your upper body to the left. Come into a sustainable stretch. You don't have to bend very far. Okay, be sure to still breathe through the nose. You should be able to still sense the breath. Rise to center, letting go of the wrist. Warrior two. Right heel pivots down. You might want a wider foundation, as long as you can keep both feet planted. Squeeze outer hip stuff, and if you need to, let your pelvis turn ever so slightly towards the left thigh. Keep things moving together. Still bending left knee, flip your left palm. Reverse your warrior. While left arm reaches up, sweep right hand across the belly to the left waist. Keep the neck active, especially if you gaze up, okay, not dropping the head. Warrior two. Windmill hands to the mat, framing your left foot. Right heel pivots up. Three-legged dog. So send your left leg back. Hands push forward. Left leg high. Lizard lunges next. Okay, smoothly stepping left foot outside left hand or between hands first. Right knee goes to the mat. Okay, you have time to adjust the length of the lunge, moving right knee forward or back if necessary. Okay, stay supported, active, push into hands. Okay, breathing here, give it time. Okay, in this posture, the right hip is in extension. Okay, to stretch the front of the right hip and thigh more, you could use your hamstring, the back of your right thigh, to bend the knee. Okay, and just maybe you can feel how bending the knee more increases the stretch on the front of the thigh. You don't even have to hold your foot to get the stretch. Okay, keep using strength here. Left arm forward, then up and back. We'll take a twist. Simply reaching your left hand to the back wall, past your right foot, and you're still trying to pull right heel closer to you. Okay, softly return right foot to the mat, left hand down to untwist, tucking right toes under, right knee lifts, high plank, okay, on toes or knees, downward facing dog. From downward facing dog, move into a high plank again. Lower knees if you need to, and bring yourself all the way down to your stomach. When you're on your stomach, we'll stretch the chest. Okay, so right arm is going to reach long to your right. If your arm is perpendicular to your body, it could also be farther back. Okay, caterpillar your right hand a little farther from you. Push into your left hand to roll towards your right side. If you need less, just don't roll as far. You can always keep your chest facing down instead. Legs could be stacked. Another version is stepping left foot behind the right knee. Okay, and while this could be a very passive stretch, be present, stay mindful. Okay, if you start to feel too much tension on any of the joints, just back off. Another breath or two. Okay, feel free to stay longer if you'd like. And unwind, return to your stomach. Step right hand under the right shoulder, left arm to the left. Arm is at shoulder level, maybe farther back. Rolling to your left side. Your choice with legs. Okay, just stay smart with what you do. Honor where you are. Two more breaths. return to center. Slide left hand closer to you. Just place hands outside the ribs. Okay, cobra or upward facing dog, lifting your chest. Child's pose, pressing the hips back towards the heels. Give yourself a few moments, grounding down. The belly could soften, shoulders drape. Hands by the knees, raising your head and chest, come to kneeling. Sit on the heels. Okay. So just observe while I demonstrate how we're going to approach camel pose today. We'll do it a little different than you might be used to. If you need to raise your hips in this kneeling position, you could always place a block between your feet to raise the hips. Now for camel, which is a back bend, which could involve more hip extension, we're going to stand on the knees with knees about hip width distance apart. Okay. You might want to do this with toes tucked under, just have a little more to push into the floor with, but toes could also be untucked. Okay. Typically we do the back bend right away, but we're going to first build or use more strength from our lower half, okay, to keep our base, supporting us. Okay, so arms are going to be straight at your sides. Okay, you're going to keep this line, straight line from knees to shoulders the whole time until I cue otherwise. Okay, so we're going to do this hinge 3 times. So the first one, keeping this straight line from knees to shoulders, you could brace the core a little. You're going to lean back a little bit. Okay, and we're bending at the knee, not the hip. Okay, rise up. Okay, and then the second time you're going to lean back. Okay, maybe a little bit more. Okay, still not hinging at the hip. Hip is an extension. Then you're going to rise with control. And one more time, leaning back. Okay, you might be able to lean back even farther. Still hinging at the knee, not the hip. Stay here. Maybe you hold onto the heels now that you could reach. Then you could add more extension, raising the hips up and forward. Keep lifting also behind the spine, through the chest. And then you could reverse to come out of it. Okay, and we'll meet here standing where we began. Okay, whew, I already worked up a sweat. So when you're ready, I'll do it again with you. Stand on your knees, okay, toes tucked or untucked, okay, arms straight and strong at your sides, okay, but brace a little, kind of squeeze the belly here, keep the tailbone lengthening downward so we don't tip the pelvis forward, okay, and loosen abs, okay, so keep your abs a little tighter, okay, without breaking this line, lean back a little bit, just a little. Then come up with control. No rush. Again, you're going to lean back. Okay, the hinge is at the knees, not the hips. Do less if you need to. Maybe lean a little farther back. Then come up. Breathing the entire time. Once more, leaning back. You could go a little farther, power in the legs. Hands might reach the heels now. This could be your camel pose. Okay, if you want to extend hips more, think up and forward with the pelvis, lifting behind the spine, okay, the whole spine. Not just falling into the low back. One more breath where you are. If you press the hips up, bring them back, arms to your sides, abs braced, and come up. All right, give yourself a moment kneeling again. Okay, back bends can be quite exciting to the nervous system. Usually the heart quickens, but you can control the breath consciously. Okay, so I hope with that version of camel, you can really see how your lower half and hip extension can bring more balance to back bending, okay, which is often done in yoga. Okay, another breath or two where you are. Okay, hips to one side, legs forward, sitting on your mat. Okay, I like to bounce the knees, to shake them out, especially after kneeling. Roll the ankles around. Okay, so to counter camel, let's take the soles of the feet together, holding ankles or outer feet. Okay, sit up as tall as you can first, then keeping a relatively long back. Bring your chest forward. Hinging gradually. Okay, and here it would be easy to just push legs down more with the arms, but instead of pushing with the arms, try to recruit outer hip stuff to pull the knees a little closer to the floor. And lifting your head and chest, hands to outer knees, legs come together, lower onto your back. Okay, once you're on your back, knees to chest. You can wrap arms around your legs, give legs a squeeze, move a little bit. Step your feet on the mat, knees are bent. Before we take a twist, you could move arms wide like a T. They could be cactus shaped, maybe arms are overhead. Bump your hips a little closer to the right side of the mat. Right thigh crosses over left thigh. Okay, if you'd rather just keep legs together uncrossed, that is cool. Okay, smoothly lower knees to the left. Okay, they could be off the ground. Okay, looking at the ceiling or turning your head right. Bracing the belly a bit to untwist, uncross legs, and then scoot your hips a little more towards the left side of your mat, left thigh over right. Knees gently drop to the right. Option to look left. Untwist with a little belly strength. Uncross your legs, hips to center. Okay, spend some time in happy baby. Bending knees towards you, you could make them wider than the torso. Holding outer feet, I like to hold ankles. You could also grab shins. And try to pull the knees down by your sides. Maybe you could lengthen your lower back against the mat. Sway. Okay, and just intuitively moving and taking what you need here. Okay, and then from your happy baby, okay, you might release everything down to the floor for a shavasana. Okay, your traditional resting posture. Okay, you might want to take legs up the wall. It's just another idea. Maybe you come into a seated meditation and just give yourself some time to rebalance everything. Okay? Honoring all of your hard work, all of your focus. Okay? Continue to move in all the different ways, explore all your ranges of motion, strengthen them, so you give yourself options, you really find how resilient you are. Okay, thank you so much for joining me. Okay, until next time, with gratitude, namaste.